second as it prepares. And so just, it's crunching.
Tell me when we're live, and I won't say everything I just said again, but I'll just.
We're live. You can go ahead.
Thank you. This is Diana Moynihan, and we're going to be discussing today the meaning of a holistic entrepreneur and ways to balance work and life. So in line with that, I have a meetup myself, Holistic Entrepreneurs International, where little by little, I'm going to ask people to become founding members so that they also can help to encourage people with this. And by the time we're finished, you'll understand why. So our goals would be with our group is to encourage work-life balance, to bounce ideas off like-minded friends, to learn methods for increasing our joy, and to learn methods for really reducing our stress. And so in line with that, think about that if you're interested, although I certainly don't want to take you away from Luke's group because Luke's got plenty going on, but just if you like. Just a little bit about my story and why I'm so passionate about your success is because for myself, I ran 5 successful businesses. In fact, the last one I ran had 350 contracts I brought in 6 years, including the White House, the Executive Office of the President of the United States, not Canada. I'll speak for United States here today. And they were all, like Fortune 100, et cetera, companies. And I had 200 subcontractors working for me. But in that time, I realized that I really didn't have balance in all of my business. And my life suffered because of that, and my business suffered. So an epiphany came to me when I realized the fact that I was really becoming obsessed and just so ingrained with my work that I was really not doing a good job with my personal life or my work. So I wasn't getting my business off the ground and running it. That was causing me to abandon all those I loved. And it says missing out on the joys of really living and being with the people I love. I'm going to ask you guys right now, do any of you relate to this feeling at all at this point? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chris. The rest of you, okay, thank you for the hands up. And I see a Luke head waving. If we've been entrepreneurs for any amount of time, we've experienced it at some point. It's just almost impossible not to have to fight that tendency. So how do we maintain this balanced life? Well, I had to focus and determine how to become more holistic in my approach for myself, to help myself to be a better person, a better business person, and really to help others succeed at this as well. So really the meaning of a holistic entrepreneur. And the reason I identify this because I have to apologize to Luke for something. I believe that if I had put on the meetup work-life balance, we may have gotten more people. I mean that. I know that. That's a confession on my part. And I realized that only later, or I would have changed it for you. But because even if you look it up on Google, and a lot of people think it's a person who's involved in medical, holistic, health. And of course, we have so much alternative health today, then that's a total possibility. And there is actually a holistic entrepreneur organization that's just for medical and alternative, practitioners. But it's a person really that starts their own business with this passion for attaining their goals in life, despite all the risks, even monetarily, because sometimes we're putting our own money into it, solopreneurs and bootstrapping, and we don't necessarily always get funding or sponsors right from the get-go. But all that and the pressures of doing it ourselves. And even Webster's dictionary, it gave a nice thing. It says an independent business owner with a go-getter attitude. Like you've heard, that guy's an entrepreneur. And it doesn't always mean he even has his own business, but just that he's really a go-getter and he has a lot of motivation. Really, that's what business owners have to have. They have that entrepreneurial spirit. And then to be holistic, we think about that, it's an adjective that describes things related to the idea that the whole, in this case, the whole person, including their business, including their family life, including their personal life, including their health, everything about the person is more than the sum of its parts. If one thing is focused on so individually, then it doesn't become really holistic. It becomes more monomaniacal, obsessional. And in other words, that entirety of something must be considered instead of just its parts. And then to understand and predict the many types of relationships between many elements. This is, again, Webster's, so we won't go to that. So as I have written there, you can see it, that it's a person who balances their work and their life in order to get the most out of life now and in the future, which we'll discuss even a little bit more. So just being an entrepreneur in general, and also let me just get an idea from the group here. Is there anyone here that doesn't run their own business or isn't an entrepreneur? Maybe you have a career or you work in corporate. Anyone that doesn't?
Are you okay with taking questions as we go along, or you would like them to be at the end?
No, I'll be happy to take questions along. It's going to be interactive. I want to be calm. I want it to be enjoyable.
Okay, so Chris, you're raising your hands. Did you have a question there, Chris?
Yes. So from the first slide or the previous slide, I was kind of wondering, how do you compare your holistic entrepreneur definition to there are many people who want to be what's called like lifestyle businesses, where set up like drop shipping, or you set up like work from home, and all of these kinds of things, either just as an could be an employee or just running, people who just Tim Ferriss has the 4-hour work week, where where he basically teaches people how they could just literally run like huge businesses like 4 days a week from the other side of the world.
Okay, and I have an answer for your question. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Looking forward.
What they're talking about in what you just mentioned is you can be holistic in your approach to many different things. And some of these companies are trying to look at their employees being more holistic in their approach, because you know why? They can get more out of their employees if their employees are happy and balanced and healthy. That's bottom line. However, that's why the name of this is holistic entrepreneur, because generally entrepreneurs own their own business. And some of those executives in those companies, they can be entrepreneurs. And this is really kind of going to them, because if you're going to be running a company and running a business, you need to care for yourself. Otherwise, the people under you are going to suffer as well, along with your business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for asking. Appreciate that. So a lot of people say that a successful holistic entrepreneur would have passion, the purpose, and the profits. Because you know what a business is without profits? Anybody want to say that? We know, don't we?
It's a volunteer position.
Exactly.
It's a hobby. It's a hobby. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the tax laws in the United States say that. Right. So technically it's a hobby. So that's why it says this balance of the passion and the excitement you have for what you're doing, along with a purpose, maybe even a higher purpose to help people. It doesn't mean you can't want to help people in your business or have your business set up to do that. But it has to be perfectly balanced. And the passion has to do with loving what you do or what you offer. And the reason I emphasize that is going back to how Luke introduced me, is with my personal business and how I coach people on how to describe their business in a way that helps others to understand their value. Well, for sure, I want them to be able to offer these things with passion, with purpose, having a stronger why, because the why also helps a business person, because people buy from people they Anybody want to fill in that blank?
Good.
Like,
That's one. And they like you if they,
Trust.
there you go. Yes. And they trust you if you have a stronger why when you describe what you're selling and why you're selling to them. Otherwise, if I just say, hey, you want to buy this because I'll make money and be able to feed my kids, we want people to feed their kids for sure. But the truth is, my stronger why is the fact that I helped someone who was struggling, who was being asked to be, show a lack of integrity. He was told to lie and cheat and do all these other things to the customer on a job. And he was my friend. And he says, I'm so upset. I need to quit my job. I said, well, wow, that's terrible. He was always so positive. And he says, but you know what? He says, I want to start my own business. And I've got a logo. And I've got a business name. And then he lit up and he was all excited. He was passionate. And of course, when he told me that, I was like, I'll help you start a business. I started a bunch of them, which I did. And in 2 months, he quit his job, and it's 2 years later, and he's rolling out semis. That gave me my epiphany more than it did him, because that was my passion. I wanted to help people learn how to present themselves in a way that they could also be successful. And again, profit is a hobby. And it is not fulfilling to put that much energy into a pursuit if you're not making a profit. And this is going to be important a little bit later on, as far as why we need to be holistic is in connection with that profit. Also, with entrepreneurs, it takes this leap of optimism and enthusiasm. You have to really believe that what you're going to do is going to be successful. I mean, you can test it out some, you can do, pre-testing and test your audience and do different things. But at a certain point, this is what your livelihood's going to be. You're going to have to lean on this. And this is some of the pressure that causes people to be imbalanced. And being determined that we can succeed based on the talents and skills we possess. Today, the world is filled with people filled with fear, that it's hard for them to have self-confidence to do this. So I even applaud you guys if you run your own businesses. I'd love to get to know you a little bit more too, to find out what your business is. So at this point, and also the belief that long hauls are going to be successful, profitable, live out your purpose and live out work with a passion. Let me ask you guys this. When you first started your business, did you find there were fears and self-doubts that you had to face when you started it that could have caused you to just go back to work for someone else? Sylvie, anything? Simha or Luke?
well, I think the issue is not necessarily doubts and fears. I think it's a sense of practical, finding leads and building a pipeline, right? So when you're not, when you're responsible for the marketing as well as performing the services, you're kind of in this constant, rat race, I guess, or hamster wheel of constantly marketing and performing the service. So you don't really have a chance to kind of focus on all the stuff that you like doing. You have to kind of be a generalist about the firm overall.
Okay, thank you. I think there's a little bit of background noise. It was just a little bit difficult to hear you, Sima, but thank you. I appreciate that very much. Sylvie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, how can I explain this? My motivation, and one of the reasons that I'm attending this is because there's some questioning right now going on, which I think was also triggered as a result of the pandemic and the economic impact that it's going to have. I'm a bit, how can I explain this? Questioning the entire small business. I'm considered what you call a gig economy worker. And how, it's not so much the efforts that I have to put in. And yes, I am realizing that right now, especially confinement, summer holidays, and now there's kind of a really big upswing, although we're going through our own tribulations right now in terms of our caseload. So there's a lot of volatility, but where I'm most concerned, I would say, is about the lack of ethics and governance in my industry. I'm mostly in IT, which is a very, very toxic industry to begin with. No, I mean, let's call a spade here, okay? And Silicon Valley is not helping, by the way. I'm sorry. I'm quite candid about that. So my point is as follows, is that I'm finding more and more, and I've been in the business for 4 or 5 years now. I'm a startup entrepreneur. I reached Silicon Valley, okay, which is a feast on its own. Why? Because I'm a female with gray hair, okay, with a technology that's not very attractive or sexy, as they call it. But I'm at the point right now where I don't see myself being able to be what I would call a holistic, balanced person because of that environment.
Not to ask, the companies you're working for or anything, but just what kind of a role or even industry are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, just cut out there.
Sylvie, you froze, just so you know, we can't hear you. So we'll give it a second. We'll give her a second.
Yeah.
Because that's good to hear her slant on what she needs to hear. I appreciate that very much.
And as I said, as an aside, I've got a type A personality. I'm also a startup founder. I had put my work as a startup founder on hold back in 2017 for different reasons. But now, as a result, again, of the pandemic and the current economic state, that solution and the problem that it's trying to solve has become more even crucial than it was prior to the pandemic. So when I'm not on contract, I work on my startup. Okay, so I am mostly in IT, but I've done other mandates in marketing. But as a result of the, strong current of IT, even if you don't do projects that are pure IT, you end up having to work with IT because any type of project, even merger and acquisitions, will have IT impact. Okay.
Sylvie, you did cut out just a bit and you froze. So could you just tell me your role, name or title and the industry once more? Because I just did miss that.
Okay, so basically it's a combo of what we call project manager, which is the old classical waterfall method, agile coach, which is a more modern method, and then there's different methodology under that. But the one where I'm most expert in is what we call Scrum. So I'm also a Scrum Master. Okay, and as I said, mostly in IT, not necessarily. I did a marketing project, but because of the
what industry?
IT, technology, information technology.
I understand that, but any particular like health?
Because of my background, oftentimes it's in the finance banking sector, which is another extremely toxic environment. Okay. So you combine this with IT and it's enough to go bananas.
Okay. I'm just going to take a second here to address what you said, Sylvie, because I spent 18 years in corporate America, working for 45 companies, including Fortune 100, as a project manager, product manager under Agile Scrum. I was a Scrum Master. I worked for Bank of America. I worked for Wells Fargo. I worked for Schwab. I worked for Freddie Mac. I worked for Fannie Mae, Verizon.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I totally get, that's why I'm not working there anymore, because today in the corporate world, the demands are so unrealistic to get it to market, and especially within the financial banking because of the regulatory demands that they have. That's why I'm out of it. I'm out for good. I still keep my PMP certification, but I'm out. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because we'll address it as we go along. You're correct. Being
introspection.
Yeah. What?
I said, I'm here because I'm having that inner introspection right now. And at one point saying to myself, am I going to be able to survive this? Also, given the current economic condition, which, we foresee here in Canada, no recovery, bringing us to pre-pandemic before 2022, mid 2022, and that assumes no severe, large reconfinement or lockdown.
And I'll tell you something else, Sylvia, is I would love to talk to you offline. Just
That's fine.
give you some information that I've done and research concerning some of the industries that are less affected and actually thriving due to COVID-19. And we can talk about that later. I won't talk about that now because we'll stay on topic, but thank you for sharing. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You wanted to add something?
For both Diana and Luke. So people usually just share LinkedIn profiles at the end or even in the middle. And I think people just usually end up just connecting to each other. So I don't know if it makes sense for this session that we can share LinkedIn profiles.
Luke, you're on mute. We can't hear your answer.
Trying not to make any noise here. Thanks, Chris. Sure. If people want to pro that in, they can do that later and they can make that connection. So yeah, just encourage people to do it. Thanks, Chris. Back over to you.
Yeah, sure. What I'll do is I'll even make a point of reminding us to do that at the end so we can connect with each other. And thank you for that opportunity to do that, Luke. Appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
And thanks for bringing it up, Chris. Appreciate it too. Okay, so we see that it is hard to stay balanced. And I know you, Luke, could also talk some stories on this too. Did you want to add anything else before we went on, or are you good? You're on mute again.
Yeah, I know. It's never muted when I need it to be and stuff like that. I think the thing is, when you asked if I had any fears or any concerns going into it, I think if I would have had fears and concerns, I wouldn't have went into down the road, because I thought, how hard could it be? I'll be an entrepreneur. And so there was a part of me that was just like, I'll figure it out as I go along. And had I known now had I known then what I know now, I don't know if I would have looked for work a little longer, quite frankly. I'm happy, I'm grateful I did it. However, there is still a lot of stuff that I think I could figure out, which I'm not good at all. And it is like, you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. And so after I got into it, and as I figure out, I really don't know how to market myself, all the stuff I've had to learn, that's when it really became overwhelming and that kind of stuff. I think people think entrepreneur is an easy gig until they get into it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, because that's where these gurus come in. And right?
Yeah.
In fact, I was just watching a really popular, influential person last week, and they made the comment. They said, I've been an entrepreneur and ran my business to get it where it is today for 11 years. She said, and I'm still looking for being on the beach with my laptop. Where did that come from, right?
Right.
And that's the picture people paint for you to sign up. They do the comment, list all the beautiful, wonderful things. Your family will love you more. The dog will love you more. I mean, it's like, they just go crazy telling you how wonderful it'll be. And you're like, woo, this vision of beauty. And they don't go into all the pain and suffering and hardship you're going to have to face around your own business. And they also don't tell you all the details you have to pay attention to, or hire it out, which would cost you money. And when you're first starting a business, that's what you don't have because you haven't made it yet. So yeah, there's a lot involved there. Luke, I really respect you for having been honest and vulnerable with admitting that too. I really do.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll move on then. Thank you. Okay, this is fun, guys, because you guys are making it fun. I appreciate it. So here's where we get into, like, quote unquote, the bad news, the hard part is being an entrepreneur brings with it these expectations from ourselves. If we feel, there's a big thing called imposter syndrome going around. I mean, it's like a disease. And every time I turn around, I'm hearing somebody saying, yeah, I have imposter syndrome. And I'm like, man, how many fake-o persons are there around? I mean, it's like, it's every time I turn around, I'm hearing this imposter syndrome thing, because people feel inadequate next to others, and they lack the self-acceptance and talents and skills, and we think we can offer. We don't think we're good enough. It's unbelievable, but it's because our society and our culture today perpetuates the fact that do hard work now, deplete yourself of everything, sacrifice, then now, and then live later. In fact, that's what the Rich Man, Poor Man, book is all about. How people need to keep working, do the job, and then at the end, when you're about to die, you'll be able to enjoy it. But now, even with entrepreneurs, they start getting into the mindset, well, I've got to do all this because my family's got to be happy. All these other reasons why they've got to focus just on their business and do it all now. And they don't relax, and they don't take care of themselves, and they don't take care of their relationships. And what does that make them when all their relationships are going down the toilet? Calm, peaceful, joyful? Not close, not even. It makes them miserable, and it makes them really not able to do the work they should be doing. And also the feeling that we need to know everything before we begin our endeavor versus training and learning as we go. Now, some of the newer entrepreneurs and newer marketers are actually telling us that we can learn and get trained as we grow, as we go, versus trying to know everything. But there's a lot of perfectionists in the world today, and they fall under that, and then they're the ones who can become obsessed. And then we hear burnout. In fact, in Sylvie's voice, my heart was going out to you, Sylvie, because I could actually feel the burnout and the pressure. And it used to keep me up all night long, worrying that I would not fulfill what everybody had expectations of me to do, when I knew full well there was no way in the world anybody could have done it. So it's hard. That's very hard. So it's also, there's the frustrations of the unexpected challenges that come up. And I'm sure, Luke, you've been in your particular business probably longer, I know longer than me, because I just got back into the entrepreneur world more recently after leaving it for almost 20 years because I couldn't take it myself, and then I couldn't take the corporate world. So high pressure, fulfilling all these tasks that you have to do, the setup, the growth, the fulfillment of the products and services, we could go on. There's a whole list that could go under here. Customer satisfaction, the whole bit. And then also taking time out for our personal life that we owe to our loved ones and friends. We are reeked with guilt when we don't show the love to maybe our children or our family or even our pets, anyone that we care about. It's very hard on us. And it creates a challenge in caring for ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to maintain the stamina required to keep going with the business. So also the paralyzing fears, facing your fears and realizing they arise, the lack of control we feel sometimes, do everything, be perfect. And then the common feeling of being a fraud, imposter syndrome. And then failing to understand that we have to accept a measure of failure for a larger measure of success. That's a real hard one for people, because as soon as we start to fail, even in little ways, we start to, that's it, I'm a failure. But really, you've only failed this much, you succeeded this much. It's something to be able to consider that and to think about it. Just make sure I watch. I want to make sure I'm on time. Okay.
I just may I ask a question about that last point?
Go right ahead.
So I want to make sure I understand it. Accepting a measure of failure for a large measure of success. So can you just go a bit more into that? Because what I wonder about with that is my perception of I'm doing a lot of work but not seeing any results. Is that what that means? Is that what we're talking about? No? Okay.
Yeah.
I missed it.
No. Okay. Let me give you one example. Okay. last business I've had that was successful when I was an entrepreneur, just before I went into my corporate years, I started out with a IBM PC Junior. It had no hard drive. I had to swap the disks. I had a 9-pin dot matrix printer, and I was calling places like FDIC and the White House and all these places asking for business. And when I did get the business, I would send them an invoice on my 9-pin dot matrix printer. Okay. At times it made me look ridiculous, but it still was an invoice, and accounting couldn't care less. So really, I failed to have all the appropriate material.
Oh, okay.
But there are pieces, or there could be a small failure. Let's say that you have a meeting and everybody at the meeting feels, let's say with your meetups, you have a meeting and everybody at the meeting leaves going, I don't know what they talked about. I don't know what's going on. And you feel like, oh my goodness, I super messed up. It was one mess up. But all these other people are getting so much value from you.
Okay. Okay.
And there's other examples, but anyone else had anything they thought about at this point? You good? Okay, yeah. Thank you for asking that. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Because thing is, reasons why you need to be more holistic in your approach, you're more than just your business. You have to value yourself and your productivity. Your productivity and success in business is going to be based on your physical, your mental, and your emotional, and even in many cases, for many of us, spiritual stamina. I can relate to even Sylvie. There were times when I was running projects, and for some reason they would give me these stupid high profile projects where I was always on this executives team, and they're like the biggest pain in the butt to try to please. And they want reports and they want everything in detail, which usually is for waterfall, and you're running a scrum team, and the scrum team doesn't want to give you any information. At one point I had literally, this is literal, 100 people yelling at me at United Healthcare. On the phone, 100 people were yelling at me, we need this information now, and you're going to get, it was like, oh my God. And now when you get all stressed out, do you think that I did a better job for them then? No, I was freaking out. It's like, I can't believe it. And my boss, he's like vacation, there were crickets. Nobody took up for me, nobody. And it made me look terrible. But I left thinking, I did the best I could, but that was painful. And it didn't make me any more desirous of doing a better job for them. In fact, I could care less if they failed at that point, because like, these people are just being ridiculous and they're screaming at me. Did you have some, it looks like you unmuted, Sylvie.
No, I guess where I'm more concerned, to be honest with you, it's not so much the execution of the work, but the toxicity of the environment. Okay. Let's face it, it's still a very much male-dominated environment, IT and finance. So basically, I'm getting it from both sides. So on the IT side, mostly male-dominated. And then on the business side, mostly male-dominated. Okay, so that's number one. And that's starting to get to me. Okay. The derogatory comments, the sexual harassment, you name it, I'm still going through it. So it kind of adds a very thick, difficult layer to navigate with, because first of all, there are laws in Canada, totally unacceptable in, every way, shape or form. And because I've got a crap load of gray hair and I don't mince my words, when it happens, I call it. So I'm also not making any friends, because I don't go under the table going, oh, shoot, I better not tell the CFO or the CTIO that he's been a jackass. I tell him. Okay, so obviously that doesn't help. People are extremely happy with how I deliver. I'm very competent, but I don't put up with any of this crap. So, and it's going to be worse again because of the economic recovery. So that's where the reflection comes from, is do I still want to go through this, in addition to the fact that from a financial perspective, for the next 2 years, completely understandable. You know, I'm going to be measured in a much tougher way than I was at the beginning of the year. Why? Because
Sylvia unfortunately cut out.
so that's the other element. So we're just adding, you know, layers of complexity that are quite serious or severe, if you want.
Understood. And you know, Sylvie, my example didn't mean that was your example, but it was a example of some of the things that happened. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry that you're going through those things. And I also know that if you take the alternative of trying to bring them to justice for some of the things, then you have another, you know, cause for them to want to get rid of you. Yes, Chris.
So first, I want to say a message. This is going off topic. I'm sorry, but I'm very, very, very sorry to hear all this shit crap that Sylvia is going through. It is not acceptable. It is absolutely unacceptable. And I don't know what else to say without starting to swear on YouTube, which I don't want to do.
Yeah, that's true. We're on YouTube, so let's keep it
And-
PG. Or
and-
actually,
And I think my question to kind of try to do anything whatever I can to help out Sylvia is, okay, in terms of boundaries, like my understanding is that generally, you know, when, you know, big companies, you have to have what's called boundaries, set boundaries where you say that, okay, well, I mean, we do everything we can to help other people in a company. That's, you know, you when you work for the company, to help the company, you always do whatever you can, but with appropriate boundaries. And, you know,
Chris,
so the question is, how would you do that? And I'm going to shut up.
no, Chris, yes, you did take it off topic. So what I'm going to ask is, towards the end, if you have some more comments you want to give to Sylvie, because I think that what your comments were very nice and very considerate. It's just, let me go through this, and we're going to have plenty of time, and then we can talk a little more about it. How would that be? Is that okay? Thanks. So really, our mental and our emotional stamina and strength is fueled with having your personal feelings and experiences with the people you care about and love. And of course, if you're going through things there at work too, these are not people that are supporting you or making you feel any better. And then we face fears, entrepreneurs face many fears that need to be addressed due to the risks involved with how they're going to respond and how they're going to feel about some of the things that they face. Again, it's going to be a person who balances their work and their life in order to get the most out of life now and in the future. I'm going to hit that thing again. Okay. So here we go on why and how being holistic and balanced works. It's not intuitive for entrepreneurs to stop and take some time out of their business day to attend to non-business interests, to do something relaxing. It's hard for them to get to the gym. It's hard for them to do cooking. It's hard for them to just even do things that support their basic life, because there's so much to be done within the entrepreneur's life. And before we go into more of this, especially Luke, I know because you've been in the business here kind of a while, I'm sure, have you found that to be true, where you'll put things aside or different ones, and not to put you on the spot if you don't want to.
No, please, no. So it's interesting. I'm, pardon me. I'm getting a new portrait done of myself, and I have to go buy some clothes, and I'm suggesting, ask my girlfriend to come help out, and she goes, let's do it Wednesday afternoon. And it's just like, no, that's work time. It works on her schedule, but it's just like, well, no, that's work time. And there is this focus of make hay when the sun is shining, because you don't want to do, but it, for me, and I don't know about anyone else, but for me, what drives that, what kind of pushes that is the scarcity mentality. If I don't take care of it, it's not going to come around. So that's what drives the urgency. That's what drives the, I got to do it, I got to do it, I got to do it. And when I was setting up these meetup groups, there were 14-hour days on a very regular basis just to feed the machine, to get everything going. And on top of that, so yeah, there's that fear something's gonna get dropped, and you don't, and it's up to you. That's where the stakes come in. If I don't do it, no one's gonna do it.
It's true.
So that adds to the urgency and the crazy making.
No, you're absolutely correct. I totally agree with you. And I know there's been days even for myself that I need to do things that take care of myself or personal life, but it's like, how can I? Because I've got so much to do. And if I don't, there's going to be consequences. And I don't know if I can live with those consequences. So that pressure is definitely there for sure, for sure. So it talks about here though, is like taking time to really be calm and collected can affect the outcome of our entire day. And sometimes we aren't willing to stop and do that. And it doesn't do us any favors. It doesn't help us because it just feeds that, as you said, feeds the machine of hysteria. And it causes us to build up an anxiety that sometimes we're not even aware of. We aren't even aware that, what do you mean my shoulders are hunched back with stress? Oh, I just realized. So when we take time to gather our thoughts, consult maybe our project plan, because if we're organized and in order, we're certainly going to do better because we've got a place to capture these things. And as we address our day with calm, it sets the whole tone for the whole day, and it keeps us more productive, not less. Jumping in like this and crazy, and I was like, okay, gotta do this stuff. It just doesn't do us any favors. And that's why it's important to remind people. And that's one of the reasons too, when I give the presentations, I'm not going to be blah, 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 just talking at you. I want to talk with you because it's so important for you and your health. And also we have to accept the challenges. Realize that there's going to be things that occur that are out of our control, and allow us to be more accepting of them. And that reduces our frustrations and stress when they do. And I, even now, I'm still doing that. Like I made a decision on something I was going to post and do yesterday, and I started rethinking it. And I started worrying about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what if that wasn't the right thing? What if it doesn't hit the button like I thought? And I started doing all that, and I started making myself a little crazy. And I stopped myself. And I said, I did it. I know who I am. People that know who I am will accept me, and I have to keep going. And even if it was a mistake, I can recover. Nobody died. And that's not easy to go through that mental and emotional exercise. Any comments on that how that's maybe occurred for your life as well? No?
I have a comment, which is never a problem. I just want to let other people, I will comment when other people, if they want to weigh in on this.
Go ahead, Luke. I'm looking also to you because I don't know the rest of the businesses. They might have been in business longer than us or
Right.
you, but go ahead.
Right. Well, it's really, and again, I my experience is not necessarily indicative of everyone's experiences, or everyone has the same experience, but to that idea of starting your day calmly, I've been around long enough to know that whatever emotional garbage I have in my head the night before really picks up the next morning. It's like if I'm worried about money the night when I go to sleep, I worry about money when I wake up. If I'm worried about not finding clients, and so on and so on. So do you have any suggestions on how to basically start your day in a calm way? What, like, are you a meditator? What do you do to get basically, you know, and can you relate to what I'm talking about? The fact that, you know, that kind of noise picks up the day from the day before?
Absolutely. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm glad you brought that up because I'm talking about first thing in the morning. At night, and you know what this starts with? Awareness. It really does. Because if you're just, you know, keep moving and keep going and redoing exactly what you're doing, you won't stop. But awareness. Before I go to sleep at night, and even 2 nights ago, I got so excited about something positive. I woke up at 2 in the morning and could not go to sleep for the rest of the night. I was so excited. And then the next day I was like in pain, shot. Oh, I was seriously, I felt like I had hangovers. It was terrible. But that was a special thing. But normally, before I go to bed, I'll stop and I'll even think really things about happiness of my life and joys and think of some positive things. And I don't do it as some kind of a strict meditation, but more of a reflection and a filtering of the things that have occurred into a positive framework. And sometimes this is so funny, but sometimes I even go to bed singing. I'll be sitting there and I'll get myself in such a happy mood that I'm sitting there and I'm just kind of singing. I get so happy. And you know, that's kind of almost, that sounds like almost mentally ill, ridiculous, but it's the truth. I really do. And that helps me to have a calmer sleep. Now, lowering the caffeine also did that too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not a coffee drinker, but I am I've stopped the chocoholic habit. So that's also helpful because that's why it's a holistic effort. It's not just your thoughts, it's also what you put in your body. You know, if you've piled yourself with a bunch of sugar and just ate a whole cake or a whole pie, before you go to bed, you're not going to sleep well. And when you wake up, you're going to have a sugar hangover, or you've drank too much, et cetera, et cetera. So that's part of it. But even in the morning when I get up, my personal habit, is I like to read a Bible scripture and then pray to God. I really do. Now, that's me, okay? And I'm not pushing any religion or anything else on anyone else. But that's how I start my day. But also the calm part is that since I know that I have that relationship with God, I have to be faith. I have to show faith that He's also going to be a part of what I do. So from that standpoint, it calms me. And again, I'm not going to say anything else more about a religion or God, but that's just, you asked, and that's what I do. But also I start the day prioritizing, and I force myself to be aware of, am I getting all crazy because of all I have to do? Because that's not going to help me. I calm myself down. I make a breakfast and I'll play some music maybe, but I'll try to start the day with little lighter activity versus getting up like I used to do for my 18 years in corporate world, getting up and like, okay, who's emailing me? What do I got to do? How many things do I got to get? How many project plans do I have to get? How many developers are going off the deep end? You know, that's how I used to wake up, but I had no choice because the pressure was on and I was going to, have to, it's like, that's a lot. So yeah, Sylvie knows what I'm talking about. So was that helpful, Luke?
Very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the idea of going to bed with, in a happier place, just to interrupt that craziness.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you for asking. Okay. So then reflect on yourself to be the best you, your greatest asset, because you're the foundation of your success. If anything goes wrong with your business, start with yourself. How did I not stay balanced to be able to prioritize to each thing that I have to do? Was I spending too much time on this versus this? Did I become so obsessed? Did I have shiny object syndrome? That's another one. Wait, I got to do this. Wait, look, maybe I could do this or this. Okay, maybe I can do this. And then we don't focus on the main tasks that are going to make us the most successful. And that's what some entrepreneurs also will have the challenge. Frustrations, yeah. Listening to our inner voices, again, that's the awareness of who we are and where our thoughts are, where our emotions are, how fast our heart is beating. Are we tense? Do we constantly need a massage because we're so, we got all this tension flying up the back of our neck? But listen to ourselves and take care of ourselves, because no one else will. No one. And no one knows what you're going through at all times. Even your most beloved mate or loved friends or family can't feel what you're feeling. So there's that. Also, there's a lack of control, that feeling sometimes that we have to be in control of everything. Things are out of control. I have to do everything. I have to be everything. I have to be perfect. We have to stop ourselves, because we cannot be perfect. We cannot be in control every second. And we can't do everything and be everything to everyone. It's just a reality. And actually, as funny as that sounds when you say it out loud and see it written, it's really true that a lot of people still try to do that and feel that way. That's why I wrote it in there, because it's the truth. And then there's that measure of failure that we were just talking about. Okay, we have here, you are your most valuable asset. And again, paying attention to your personal life is going to benefit us, the business, and others. And it's funny because I was thinking of what you said a minute ago about your girlfriend, Luke. But now, if it were me and I were you, and you do what you want, but if it were me and I were you, I would have said to my girlfriend, you know what? I am so busy and I have so much I have to do, but you know what? You're worth so much to me. I'd like to take this time out and be with you. And I would just do it. But that's now. I think in the past I wouldn't have, but I know better now, because if that means something to her, and she means something to you, but you can pick another time. That's really the truth. It's like not going to hurt anything, but still, you're spending the time with her and showing the love. But we have to. But some people aren't doing that. They're the 14 to 16-hour days, and their mate gets more, or their beloved ones only get right. So that's a hard thing. Sima, did you have anything to say here? You've been kind of quiet. We're going to give you an opportunity. Anything, questions coming along the way, or?
I'm just being a sponge.
Do you support or understand or kind of go along or understand what we're talking about here and everything?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have any comments other than, it's just everybody's perspective has been pretty interesting, and I'm just, absorbing it as we go along.
Good, as long as you're enjoying it, right? Good, awesome. Okay, we have to take time for ourselves, be healthy, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And that healthy part also means cooking good meals for ourselves. One of the new ventures I'm going to get into, which I won't go into it all day, except to mention it here, is I'm going to be starting a cooking class to plan cooking and to do batch cooking and to cook up within an hour to 2 hours for the whole week. Because that's the way I live anyway. I will sit and I will listen to videos and YouTube and all kinds of stuff. And I'll have 5 pots going along with a crock pot and everything. And I get a lot done in a small amount of time, but it's all ready for the rest of the week. Because I'm not one of these people that like to cook every night or every day or every morning. So that's one of the ways I stay healthy, is I know that I've got that time set aside to make the food and to get it ready. And I believe a lot of other entrepreneurs could really benefit from that. So that's something I'm going to be starting out. Physically too, to get a little bit of exercise and to go out every once in a while and just stop. The new smoking, have you heard the new smoking is sitting? Yeah, we've heard it, right?
Yep.
Right now, my butt's starting to hurt, to be honest with you. And that's because I didn't set up my little office here that I'm going to be doing videos with. I'm going to be standing because we sit too much. So there's that. And then there's emotionally. Are we getting weepy? Are we feeling like we're on the Corona coaster? That's what I heard somebody say. I thought it was cute. Are we feeling very isolated and we just need to stop and reach out? Let me call somebody. Let me text somebody just to get some human interaction here. Or are we so busy in our website and then I got to get those documents out and I got to get that presentation out and I got to set up 20 more meetups? Oh, I'm just kidding, Luke. Not picking on, just kidding. So, but here's the thing is, how are our emotions? We need to actually, that's awareness again. How am I feeling right now? With women, sometimes we get a little weepy. You know, we get weepy and we feel, you know, at least I do. But I don't, it's not, I'm not a crier, but every once in a while I can feel a little weepy due to this COVID-19. And it's just because I'm living in a 2D world here, or 1D world, whatever you call it. I mean, I can't reach out and touch you guys or hug you, you know, see around you. It's only when I go out shopping, I realize there's actually a 3D world out there. I'm like, wow, everything looks so alive. So we have to ask ourselves, where are we? Because these things affect us as the main source of our business. And take times with loved one versus overtime. Don't get into the keeping balance and the physical, because these are stress reducers. Okay. And then take time away from your business to change your focus at times, because we can become overly focused and like Luke was saying, go to sleep with it all running through our heads. We're thinking about what do I have to do tomorrow? That's another thing I do. I will not allow myself for a minute when I'm going to bed to think about what I have to do tomorrow. Oh my goodness. And that's taken practice and self-control to get that habit broke. Because, you know, I think even with Sylvie, we're project managers, we're organizers. And at night, and especially when I'm starting to get sleepy, I'm thinking, okay, let me make sure, what do I have to do tomorrow? And I'm starting to plan it out. And then I can't sleep well, because that's the last thing I'm putting in my mind. And I've got those neurons all firing up, and it's not healthy for us. So those are some of the things also that are going to help us to maintain that holistic approach. We're almost done with this because we're going to open it up for everybody even to talk a little more. And we'll even let Chris go back to his subject too. But maintaining a balance keeps us successful because we're more realistic with our plans. We're more realistic with our vision. We're more realistic with ourselves and the realistic outcomes for our business goals of success. See, this is another way to maintain. If our expectations of ourselves for tomorrow, or for the week, or for the month, or for the quarter, for the year, are too high and they're not realistic, and then we start adding more stuff to it, what can we expect? You know, I'd say it would be the definition of insanity, wouldn't you? Yeah. We're piling too much on ourselves. So we have to set a plan, because we know if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. That's with dates and with milestones, keeping ourselves on target, because if we know this is coming up in 2 weeks, we can then back it up and think, okay, well, I can get that done, unless we're one of these kinds that wait till the last minute, and then you're not doing it, it's not a good thing. We can adjust our schedule when we find it's too demanding, staying aware of ourselves and our business. Because again, we want the most successful business and the most successful life we can. We can arrange for even daily periods of calm, tranquility. Take a walk. You know, I used to be shocked at people when I was in the IT world. This is the honest truth. I used to be actually shocked that people were eating lunch. I don't know how they did. I would see a lot of the developers walking along and talking, you know, and they're all laughing and they're going to lunch. I'm like, what's your problem? That's what I used to think. I couldn't even fathom that they weren't going to get their lunch to put it next to their laptop while they work. I thought that was normal, you know? But it's not. It's really not normal. So we have to arrange for these times. Oh, also the developers will always take 2 tea breaks per day. That would just, you're gonna go sit and have tea? Are you kidding me? But they were so calm and they got their work done and they knew they had to work overtime too. So arranging for this, add it even to your schedule if you have to. Don't let it be the first thing you sacrifice when the issues arise. Now, this is a big challenge because as soon as the pressure comes on, this all sounds good in theory, but as soon as the pressures and the challenges come, the first thing to go are these things because they don't seem as important, and yet they are. So refusing to let this time and focus be sacrificed to do more in our business, taking the time to meditate and let your mind have a break, or allow your mind a creative exercise for stimulation. As entrepreneurs, we can put it into our schedule to do a couple of things during the day that are actually fun. You know, one of the things fun for me in my business is to go and do research. I know because I'm like analytical, it's stupid, but that's my fun. I like to go and just brainstorm and research other topics related to things that I'm doing. I'm kind of focused on the business I do. I mean, that's something I enjoy. So it's not just work, it's kind of entertainment. But whatever it is that would help you be more creative, look up graphics, find jokes for your meetup, do something that's fun or creative to let yourself enjoy the moment in the day. And one thing I do want to insert here is that I walked this talk. I gave up chocolate. I'm still having shakes on that at night, but I gave up. You have to be able to actually implement this for it to work for you. Lessons learned. I think of the airplane. You've got all your children sitting in the airplane and something happens and the oxygen drops. What have they said? Who do you put the oxygen mask on first? All your kids? You love your kids. You love them. You can't take care of your kids if you don't put the oxygen mask on yourself to help them get it on. And that's the same with us. Yep, you all know. So today, I hope, people forget sometimes what you said, but they never forget how you made them feel. And I hope I made you guys feel positive, more calm, more self-loving, and convinced that you really need to care for yourself to be more successful, productive, and to get everything that you want in life. Thank you. Appreciate it. So I'm going to open it up now so you guys can do some, we can talk a little bit more and you can share some of your things. Oh, and Elena, I don't think, and Sarah, I didn't see you, or Marielle, I didn't ask you because I only had the others in my vision because of my shortened vision, but did you guys have anything, any questions or anything that you'd want to ask or comment?
Yeah, if I may, and then I'll leave the floors to other. One of the, let's call it new element that I have a hard time, not coping with, but living with, I guess is a better word, is basically what's happening in the world, okay? And I don't want to make this a political discussion, but what's happening in the US bothers, I'm on YouTube, the crap out of me, okay? The fires on the West Coast, the impact of your beloved president, and again, I'm being very politically correct, on Canada because of the fact that we do a lot of trade in the US. Every time he does anything on the trade side, like just the tariff recently, I just said the fires, the way he handled the pandemic, and I've always been like that since I'm yay high. anything that happens around the world impacts me greatly. But I mean, when it's disseminated, I can, you know, I mean, the war in Syria, the explosion in Beirut, all of the, but right now, let's face it, this is not a pretty picture here, okay? And just as an aside, when the pandemic started in Quebec, we had these people putting rainbows in their windows. And, you know, the slogan in Quebec was, "Ça va bien aller," everything will be all right. To me, that's the most asinine thing you can tell me. Why? Because hope is not a plan, okay? So my point is, given, you know, the volatility of the world, how can you detach yourself from that? Because I find, again, it adds to me another layer, you know, and I'm concerned about the economic recovery. I'm concerned of what's going to happen in November in your, you know, in your country, because the impact it has on us. So how do you break away from those situations? Because I have a very hard time.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I will say is that there are two circles. The circle that you have control over and that you have any influence with, and then there's the circle that you don't have control or influence with. So for me, my job is to help people on an individual basis if they have issues and they're losing it or they're losing their balance or focus, to help them on an individual basis, because I could influence that. But the other circle of influence, I can't control. I can't keep anybody off, you know, their Twitter account. I can't do any of the other things that are causing people such pain. So I try to, again, focus on the things I do have control over and influence, and that keeps me sane. But anyone else want to comment?
Yes, could I? It's Elena speaking. And Diana or Diana?
Diana.
Diana, great. like Princess Diana, great name.
Lady Di.
Yeah. So let me say something. My parents, I was born in Moscow, and my parents are in Moscow, and they're supposed to be taking flight to come to the United States, but they're terrified of jumping on the plane and coming. And they keep watching TV and they keep asking questions like, every day you have 40,000 of new cases. You have protests, you have fires, exactly what Sylvia was just bringing up. And I said, well, I'm right now in Tyson's Corner, Virginia. I'm looking out of the window and I see people dining in restaurants. We have cars nicely parked. It's beautiful and clean. We have flowers. If I go to Washington, D.C., it's all organized. There is no protests whatsoever, and planes are flying, and just so many things are specifically designed to attract our attention. I have lots of friends who are editors of Washington Post and such in political world, and it's all designed as a story to bring our attention. Why do people read Washington Post? Why do we watch CNN? Because if it's something interesting going on, like outside this world, look at this breaking news. In reality of things, if you look outside your window where you are right now, there is no fires, there is no protest, there is no death, there is no, you know, like it's all specifically, it's a entertainment, it's a part of entertainment industry to separate what's reality and what's not. It's the first thing I've learned from just being in this world. And secondly, just see which world you want to live in. There's if you focus on something that you are focused on, say for instance, business or friends and relationship, and just start looking into that particular realm and pay less attention to breaking news. That's part of self-care. Do I want to listen to nice music, or I want to listen to 5 more minutes on breaking news on CNN? So that helps a lot.
Appreciate that. By the way, Elena, I just in February sold my house in Nokesville, Virginia, and as a project manager, that's where I work most of the time, Tyson's Corner. And that traffic, I'm so glad I'm not there. I'm so happy. But yeah, I know.
Yeah, actually, Diana, if you would be driving right now, there is no traffic because lots of people working from home. And
Right
it's just
now, yeah.
yeah, it's nice and organized. It's beautiful. It's the sunshine, and you could go get a cup of coffee and go back to your office or home. So it's like just so it's so serene and beautiful. So just there are two realities, and which reality you want to be in. That's it's a conscientious choice.
Sure. Sarah, did you want to add anything? Because we haven't heard from you. We'll give her a chance to unmute. She may have not walked away.
Yeah, I like what Elena was saying. As Sarah, hopefully, we'd love to hear from you, Sarah. It's like perception drives reality. And I actually made not a concert. I actually stopped listening to the news. I got rid of my cable 6-7 years ago. I don't remember how long ago, because I don't watch commercials. And yeah, I find I'm infinitely happier when I'm not being influenced, or I'm not having that come. And you know, it's where I want to spend my energy and time. So that's what I've had to do just to have that. I'm not sure. I just see Sarah didn't turn off her microphone, so. I do have a few questions, but I want to open it up for other people first, because like I said, I have no shortage of questions, and we have about 13 more minutes before we're done here today. So are there other comments or questions from people?
Yeah, Chris, and if this is not going off on your other subject, this is pertaining to the subject here. Chris, you're frozen.
So, okay, so I think this is pertaining to the subject, but I'm going to let you be the final judge. So I was kind of sort of wondering about a few things, because I've noticed like some concerns that I think are very appropriate. Is like, you know, what happens when things, like we can do everything we can to calm things down and plan, but what do you do when, like when the coronavirus hits? What do you do when let's say the big customer goes out of business, or let's say the big customer's let's say the big customer's headquarters gets hit by a nuclear bomb, just to throw things out here. And I was kind of wondering, okay, how do you set appropriate boundaries when things happen? How do you, how can we plan, like, like life balance is awesome. Life balance is awesome, but how can we plan for life balance? How do you plan in case the big, like the big crap, hits the fan, so on.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to answer that. See, that's actually one of the points of doing this, is because it will happen. It's not what if it happens. It will, and has, and does happen.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the question I'll have to ask you, and you know the answer to this: is going crazy and letting yourself be filled with anxiety and losing your balance, is that going to help anything or anybody or fix anything? It's not, and we know it's not. So these are all tips of how to maintain. That was the word in there. The tip was to maintain a balance. Things are going to tip us. I can't say I do every solid thing on this slide perfect. I can't. I'd like to, but I can't. There are times when I'm tipped, but I know what I have to come back to. Now, if I don't come back to it, I will stay in balance. And that's really kind of my answer. I hope that was, helpful for you. And Luke, you said you had some questions?
Yeah. Just actually several here, and I just want to think which one.
Hit me with your best shot. Fire away.
Nice Pat Benatar impersonation there. So the first thing I want to say is something that I've heard anecdotally from CEOs is that they never have a time just to think. They just don't, they go from meeting to meeting and on that, and they just, if I just had a minute, I could just gather my thought for 5 minutes on that. And I think that kind of also plays into the entrepreneur type of headspace, is that you're always going, and sometimes, I've made decisions that seem like really good decisions just from force and whatnot. So there's that kind of reminds me of, that's not only entrepreneurs complaining about that, but also to CEOs about the fact that I don't have any time to think because we got to produce all the time. So there's that. My other, do you find there's a distinction on gender when it comes to self-care?
Well, no, and I'll tell you why I say that is what you just said about the CEOs. That sounded like, if I were to say, was that a man or a woman you were just talking about? It sounds like a man.
Yes.
He does, I mean, just to be honest. However, with women, the problem is that they are being held to a higher standard and under greater pressure in their minds, really, truthfully, and society, to accomplish more and to compete with men, the glass ceiling and all that, and to be taken seriously in certain industries like banking and all these other things, I mean, so both of them need to practice it. And even what you just said about that CEO, they are taking, a lot of them are going to trainings nowadays to be able to stop that. Because what I heard you saying when you said that sentence is, I heard you've got a CEO that doesn't know how to schedule his time properly, or he can't delegate well. Definitely not delegating. He's doing too many things. He's overscheduled, and he's not doing his business or his employees any good, and he's not doing himself any good. So that's all I have, really to say on that one. But yeah.
Yeah. And I was married to a lawyer. She's a partner now with the world's biggest law firm. And I have no doubt she has to be 2 to 3 times better than the average male lawyer in the firm just to keep up, because there's only one place that is more of an old boys club than law firms, and those are banks. Right, Sylvie? So, it's through on that. But I think the further point is, or just the other thing I just wanted to just say is, I don't believe we are basically socialized to take care of ourselves, specifically men. It's our role models don't demonstrate it. We idealize with sports figures and movie stars and all that kind of stuff. And so that's why I was wondering if you deal with one gender more than another, because I think it is, as we get rid of the old guard, as the boomers retire and move on, it'll be curious to see where we are in 30, 40 years, if I'll be here at that point, to see if there's a really different shift in culture on things like self-care on that. But I think it's both genders are plagued with things. I think that's a male plague that we have. That's that's a curse men have about not thinking we should if we take care of ourselves somehow, we're not man enough, or I'm not sure what it is.
I just want to tell you something that really taught me a lesson. And it was in a very, very weird place. Okay. Maybe you guys have seen on TV that show called The Mask. Okay.
The one
Masked
John.
Singer. I'm sorry, The Masked Singer.
Oh,
okay.
Here's
what it is. Okay. It's if you get to see it on either Netflix or Hulu, it's mind blowing. Okay. They take famous people and they put elaborate masks and costumes. I mean, elaborate, gaudy, colorful, flowery, all kinds. One person was a hot dog. One person's a cat. I mean, one's a frog. But they put these elaborate costumes on them. They don't tell you who it is, and they don't let anybody know who's in that mask, including all the people that work around them. It's like this top secret. They can't even talk to other people in the masks. Nobody knows who they are. So they get on and they sing, and then they get judged. It's a contest. And at the end, the one who doesn't make it through, he has to take off his mask. Well, now here's the learning lesson I got. And some of these people were pretty big people. Some of them have been in Hollywood, jazz singers, politicians. What was the woman that started to run as VP that's in Alaska? She was on there. And say, Palin. Yeah.
Palin, yeah.
I mean, unbelievable people are under these masks. And every single one of them, when they have to end up taking off their mask at the end, said, this was the most freeing experience I've ever had. No one knew who I was. And they were saying, like, this is the first time I've ever felt fulfilled. This is the first time I've ever felt like loved and cared about, or people really like me. All these crazy things. They're super famous, and they're saying these things because of those self-doubts they have within them. And I'm telling you, it was total epiphany for me to hear them, because every time they'd say, Donny Osmond, he said this is the most enjoyable singing gig he ever had, because people kept freezing him in time to being little Donnie. I did. I had a crush on him. He's always going to be little Donnie to me. No, just kidding. But it was amazing, because we all think that we're different from these people that are supposed to be, quote unquote, highly successful. And it's not true. All that success didn't bring them the joy and peace and happiness that they really desired.
Michael Seymour Hoffman, Robin Williams, just to name a few. There's another story. There's another anecdote I've heard about, and this is.
Did that relate to what you were saying? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it was Barbara Streisand that stopped singing for 5 years because she got tired of the stage fright. Or she just and you hear these stories of these musicians that have been around for decades and they still throw up before they get on stage because they're that freaked out by it. And what that tells me? That actually takes a lot of pressure off me, because I realize if those people are tried and true who have been in the industry, and as far as I'm concerned, if Barbara Streisand shows up on stage and throws up into a bucket, everyone's going to love her regardless, because she's Barbara Streisand. They're not going to have that. So I'm just conscious of the time. I make it a point to bring us to an end on that. I was going to talk about my webinars next week, but that's fine. You can go to my meetup page to do that. I'm just wondering if there's any last comments before we sign off. We have just 2 more minutes, and would anyone else like to have anything to say?
Yes, let me just, it's Elena. Let me just add something to what you said previously. So Sinatra, he was waking up every day and thinking, well, when I'm just afraid they're going to uncover me, they're going to uncover that I'm fake today. That was his thought.
Sinatra said that?
Sinatra, he was every day, he was afraid that people are going to see his fakeness.
Wow, there's imposter syndrome coming through.
Yes.
Wow.
He did not share it much, but it's just something that he shared eventually at the end of his life, pretty much. Everyone has that.
Yeah.
And another quick question to Diana. So if you have to prioritize, like you are the manager, project manager, you have 10 things, 20 things on your to-do list. What do you do? How do you do number one, number 2, and not hate yourself that you didn't do 25 things?
Okay, well, first of all, you start with the things that will get you fired. You start with the people things. What are the things that people are depending upon you on? And what are the things that are the next steps that will hold anybody back? That's kind of an agile Scrum mentality too, of what will stop you for others from doing their work. That's what Scrum and Agile Scrum Masters kind of looked at and asked each on a daily basis in their daily Scrum. So look at what's going to affect other people and what's going to be, or what's going to cost the most money to your company, or what's going to be most pleasing your boss in some cases. And then prioritize from there. That's what you do, because I mean, it's true, everything you have to do is important, but some things will actually either just get you fired or ruin your entire business or take you down the toilet, and those are things you want to avoid. And I hope everybody enjoyed this today. I really do. I know I did.
Well, and on that note, we're at 90 minutes in, so well, thank you very much. I really appreciated the the information, but also the authenticity that you're not speaking about something you don't know, and that actually came, was really quite genuine, and with what those strategies are, and also a reminder of the fact that sometimes my priorities need to be my girlfriend, maybe not working. So thank you very much, everyone. And Deanna, I am going to get you to hold on just really quickly here. I'm going to stop sharing and just everyone. And as I like to say, you don't have to leave your house, but you can't stay in this room. So if everyone would
Bye,
sign
guys.
off.
Thank you for your
Thank you very much.
involvement.